Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. May the peace, mercies and blessings of Allah be upon with one and all. Dearest beloved divine friends, brothers and sisters, welcome to this short presentation, as I promised a few days ago to do a daily presentation on the teachings of Islam, the Sahabas, and the teachings of Muhammad in this beautiful book that is called Fazail-e-Amal on the Sahabas and of the Prophet. Now let's turn to that book and this beautiful reading that you will enjoy and share to your family and friends, dearest beloved divine ones. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Dearest beloved divine friends, family, brothers and sisters, I have started a little bit of a reading. I try to do it daily, but I started one and then missed the other, hopefully to keep it going for the rest of the Ramadan with a beautiful message from the teachings, the Sahabas, the Holy Prophet and his followers in the early days. And so I wonder, as I have time right now, to do some recording, not to waste time. I'm a person, as you, some of you who know me, I never waste my time. Now, it's a beautiful day. I'll give you a name, 1st of April, which they call Easter Monday. It is, it's okay, which is a very beautiful, lightly sunny, cool atmosphere. All day it was beautiful, fresh, and extremely precious. Today being the 1st of April, the day of the fool, or the All Fools Day, is the day that I was born. Today I miss my mother majestically, who passed away just over a year ago in Canada at the age of 93. And may Allah bless her, but I truly miss her, so I don't wear gold anymore. But I decided to wear her ring that she had presented me on this, my 69th birth anniversary on the Day of Fools. As you know, I'm a very foolish guy, right? I was born on a foolish day, the Day of Fools. So I have to be foolish guy. So I'm going to now like to find something here in this book, Fazail-e-Amal. Beautiful stories of the Sahabas in this book. Let me find one and try to read something before I sit here for a half an hour or an hour and waste life's time. So my beloved divine friends and families, I have decided to read to you the third story in this amazing book. It has to do with the truth of HUDEYBIAH and the story of Hadrat Abu Jandal and Hadrat Abu Basir radiyallahu anhu ma. In the 6th year of the Hijrah is a time when he left Mecca himself now, after he had sent his people first of all to Ethiopia and then eventually into Medina. And he's traveling alone now, along with a guide, heading into Medina. And so it's the 6th year of the Hijrah, 6th year after that momentous trip from which the calendar of Islam is calculated. The Prophet ﷺ, along with his companions, left for Mecca to perform Umrah. The Quraysh heard of the news and decided to resist his entry into Mecca. Even as a pilgrim. And so he had to encamp at HUDEYBIAH. The devoted Sahaba, 1,400 in number, were however determined to enter, even if it involved an open fight. But the Prophet ﷺ viewed the matter differently, and in spite of the Sahaba's eagerness to fight, entered into a treaty with the Quraysh, accepting their conditions in full. Now, when you are doing a treaty, you always negotiate. You always have this agreement where both parties gain and both parties lose something. But in this case, he accepted it in full. Let me go on. The one-sided and seemingly ungraceful truce was a very bitter pill for the Sahabas. Sahabas mean his followers, to swallow. But their devotion to the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, would not allow them to demur or to differentiate or go against him. And even the most valiant man like Hadrat Umar radiallahu anhu, blessings of Allah be upon him, could not but submit to his decision according to one of the articles of the treaty. But you know, Umar was one of the greatest fighters of his time. According to the articles of the treaty, converts to Islam during the period of the truce were to be returned, but not so the deserters from Muslims to Quraysh. So anybody who went to the Prophet from the Quraysh, the Meccans, had to be returned. But not so for the deserters from the Muslims to the Quraysh. They were not forced to return, which to my opinion seems like and to the Sahabas an obnoxious idea or thought. But Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah, know best. Hadrat Abu Jandal radiallahu anhu, a Muslim in Mecca, was suffering great persecution at the hands of the Quraysh. They kept him constantly in chains, and hearing about the arrival of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Hudaybah, he escaped somehow and managed to reach the Muslim camp at a time when the truce was about to be signed. Now the point to note here was about to be signed. His father, Suhail, till then a non-Muslim, was the envoy of the Quraysh. He was the ambassador of the Quraysh, or the members, or the Meccans, in the negotiations for the truce. He smote Hadrat Abu Jandal radiallahu anhu on his face and insisted to take him back to Mecca. So his father, who was the ambassador of Mecca, decided he had to go and slap him into his face. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam represented that since the truce, and this is the power, ladies and gentlemen, of my Prophet, my beloved Muhammad, the power, the truce was not yet signed. Since the truce had not till then be written, in its application in Abu Jandal case was premature. So it was premature. Suhail, however, would not listen to any argument and was not inclined to leave his son with the Muslims, even at the personal request of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and would have foregone the truce even. Abu Jandal radiallahu anhu, counting his hardships, remonstrated at the top of his voice, but much to the grief of the Sahaba, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam agreed to his return. So he agreed to return, and under the circumstance, for the sake of peace, Prophet Muhammad, first of all, decided he would not. But in order to keep the peace, he decided that he will return, and as Abu Jandal wanted to return. He, however, enjoined the patience on him, saying, "Do not be distressed, Hadrat Abu Jandal radiallahu anhu. Allah will shortly open a way for you." So let me read that again. Words of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. "Do not be distressed, Hadrat Abu Jandal radiallahu anhu. Allah will shortly open a way for you." You see, the Prophet also had sight. He could see things. He knew certain things that would happen in the future, but of course not everything. Things that Allah had wanted his eyes to be open to. After the truce was signed, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had returned to Medina, another Meccan Muslim, Hadrat Abu Basir radiallahu anhu, escaped to Medina and besought the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam protection. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam refused to accept his implorations, and in deference, in agreement to the truce condition, handed him over to the two persons who had been deputed by the Quraysh or the Meccans to claim him. So he handed him over, much to the pain of his heart. The Prophet had to do that because there was obviously a very good reason also. He, however, advised him, as he advised Hadrat Abu Jandal radiallahu anhu, to be patient and to hope for the help of Allah. When Hadrat Abu Basir radiallahu anhu and his escort were on their way back to Mecca, Hadrat Abu Basir radiallahu anhu said to one of them, friend, your sword is extremely fine. The man was flattened and took it out from his sheath and said, yes, it is really very fine. And I have tried it on so many persons, you can have a look at it. Most foolishly, he made over the sword to Abu Basir, radiallahu anhu, who immediately tried it on its owner and killed him. The other man took to his heels and reached Medina to report to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the meantime, Abu Basir radiallahu anhu also arrived. He said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, O Prophet of Allah, you once returned me and absolved yourself of the truth's obligations. I had no obligations to fulfill, and I managed my escape from them by this trick. So I was afraid of their forcing me to forsake my faith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam remarked, you are a warmonger. I wish you could be helped. So even though he killed the man, he returned to the Prophet because he had no truth. The Prophet said, well, you are a man who loves wars. Hazrat Abu Basir came to understand from this that he would be returned to the Quraysh again when they demanded him. He therefore left Medina and fled to a place in the desert on the seashore. Abu Jandal radiallahu anhu also managed his escape and joined him there. More Muslims of Mecca followed, and in a few days a quite small group of such fugitives gathered in the wilderness. They had to undergo untold sufferings in the desert, where there was neither habitation nor vegetation. They, however, being bound by no treaty, a great nuisance for the Quraysh by dealing blows after blows on the caravans passing their way. So they were attacking the caravans that were passing and obviously getting nourishment and wealth along the line. This compelled the Quraysh to approach the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and beseech him to intervene and call the fugitives to Medina so that they may be bound by the terms of the treaty like other Muslims, and the caravans might pass in safety. It is said that Hazrat Abu Basir radiallahu anhu was on his deathbed when the letter sent by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam permitting his return to Medina reached him. He died while holding the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam letter in his hand. No power on the earth can make a person forsake his faith, provided it is a true faith. Moreover, Allah has given an assurance to help those who are genuine Muslims. I have the other great one, inshallah, the story of Hazrat Bilal, the slave that Prophet Muhammad and Abu Bakr saved from almost total destruction, who became one of the greatest leaders, a blackest of men in the cause of Islam. A very great leader. May Allah be pleased with them all, and I hope that you appreciate this message, dearest, beloved, divine brothers and sisters. From me, your brother, Haji Dr Roshan Khan, of the Electric Mosque presentations of the teachings of Islam. I'm pleased that I was able to present this wisdom, this knowledge. Assalamu alaikum. Khuda Hafiz.